Most people think that creativity is about freedom, spontaneity, and going with the flow. It is. But one thing people don't talk about is you can't have freedom without having structure. I know that might sound kind of stupid, but you really can't have freedom without having a structure or a way or a framework to go about doing things. So that's what we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about the truth. The truth is structure allows creativity to be possible. It allows you to thrive and flourish and to be at your best. You know, I guess people say be your best self, but you can't be your best self without structure. So I'm going to bring in a real quick example of how the military allowed me to be creative and what I use today and how that makes me be a creative. First of all, you got to have a plan in place. All right, a plan and a process. And without having a structure, there's no plan and there is no process. We call them PCIs and PCCs because if you don't have all your gear packed and all your gear ready to rock and roll, then you really don't have that freedom to think and to move and be creative, to be spontaneous. Let me talk about a time when structure allowed me to be creative. And this is where I actually really fell in love with flash photography. So I was in South America. We were on an exercise called Cabañas. And Cabañas was an exercise where I think it was about 9 South American countries plus the United States all came together for a military training exercise. This is where I took out my flash for the first time. Not necessarily for the first time, but I took it out on what we would consider like a real world training mission. I practiced before with it because I really wanted to explore with my flash. And when I say I came up with some amazing shots, you know, and this was actually bringing flash to the field. Now, you won't do this in combat, you know, this is just not an everyday thing, but being that it is a training exercise, you do what you're supposed to do. You try stuff in practice, so when the real thing happens, then, you know, you're good. You already know that it works. But structure allowed me to explore my creativity. So I always wanted to see how did people get these big pop on their colors. And, you know, going through the training that the military gives you, we teach you the basics. And the basics allow you to build your tower or build your building as high as you want to build it. So we were taught how to use external flash or wireless flash. Well, we didn't have like really wireless flash back then. It was with the cord. But we actually used that technique, but it wasn't used for the field because conventionally you don't use flash in the field. Like where in combat are you really going to just pull out a flash and, you know, when things are going down, you're, you know, actually flashing during the daytime. But since we were in training, I took advantage of it. But like I say again, structure allowed me to get my practice in and to explore and be creative. The first thing I knew I had to do was I had to have a plan for getting what I would consider like the basic job done. So what I did was what the Army teaches you, what the military teaches you, PCIs, PCCs, get a plan and have a process. And that's pretty much it. So when I planned, I knew what gear I needed. And then after I knew what gear I needed, then from there, what I did was I went ahead and packed up the gear that I needed. And that kind of calmed and allowed me in my mind to be creative and kind of like identify the shots which were going to be the basic shots, and then identify the shots which were going to be the what I would consider money shots for this shoot and for me practicing. So I decided to pull out my flash when we were doing training maneuvers with the South American countries because you normally don't do that. But I got some great portraits. But what I did was I went out, I got what I needed first. Once I hit everything that I needed, then I explored and got more creative with my flash. But this is how structure brings, you know, allows you to have freedom versus you feel like there are chains on you. So bottom line is this. I got through the shoot, hit all of my basic stuff, and then I was just looking so forward. I was so excited just to see if these shots came out like I really wanted to, because you don't have a lot of time to do what we call chimping. Chimping is when you take a picture, you know, and look on the back of your camera after every shot, and then you be like, ooh, ooh, ah, ah, ah. That's called chimping. You don't really have time to do that out in the field. So with me practicing and getting this flash photography down, I was anxious to get back, and once I got back, I was definitely pleased with the images and how a lot of the photos came out. But without structure, I wouldn't have been able to do that. Structure also carries you throughout the whole editing process until you pass the product over to the customer. In the military terms, it was, take the photos, process the photos, put caption on the photos. After you do that, then you load up all the photos that are captioned that you're going to send back to the Pentagon or JCCC or back to your unit. And then you pull out your MRSAT or you pull out your device that's going to allow you to get those pictures back to the unit. And then once that's sent off, then you can rest and relax and plan for the next day. But until that happens, you can't rest and you can't relax. And that right there is just structure. So if you do the same thing and you have a plan and you have a process, then you can be the most creative. Because in the planning phase, you already know what you want. And this allows you to get all of your gear in place. It allows you to kind of like predict or plan certain shots. And then how does this translate to me as a photographer now, being retired from the military? It helps me out because I give my customers a plan and a process that we're going to follow, and they have the utmost confidence in me because guess what? They know everything that I'm going to do. It may not be in perfect order, but they know what I'm going to do, and that gives them a sense of being at ease. And that's what you want. If you don't know anything else or you don't want nothing else, you always want your clients to have confidence in you so that they can be at ease and they can rest and they can know that, I already know these pictures are going to come out. I've seen your work before, but now I know the process, I know the structure in which you work with, then I'm feeling real good. And a lot of times, because I presented my customers, especially like on quinceañeras, wedding shoots, big shoots like that, one-time shoots where you don't get an opportunity or you don't get a chance to reshoot. Once I present them with the structure or the plan, they are just like chill. They are themselves. That allows them to let their hair down. That allows them to just be in the moment and not worry about if you're going to capture the moment. So this is what structure does, and it brings to you as a photographer. Structure helps you eliminate the mental chaos, but not only the mental chaos, it allows you to have measurables in place. So let's say, for example, you now have your plan in place. You have your process in place. You could take all that data after a few shoots that you're doing, and then you use that data to say, I could use more time here. I lost more time here. And then that allows you to say, oh, I got room or I got space for the other things that I really, really wanted to do. For those who looking to grow and expand, it allows you to, kind of find out how many people are you going to need to be as creative as you want to be. Because when you're doing everything solo dolo, you can only be so creative. And because the clients only have so much time on their event. And the event is not supposed to be all photography, all videography. It's supposed to be them being in the moment. So that's why I always tell my clients, look, I'm doing my job so that you can relax and enjoy the moment. It's my job to capture that moment, but it's your job to go ahead and enjoy that moment. So you want repeatable workflows. You want repeatable standard shots that you have. That's part of having a plan. That's part of having a shot list. That's part of knowing what it is like on your timeline. That's knowing what it's like if somebody's going to be able to capture your BTS or your behind the scenes. This all allows you to be more creative. A lot of people get most reviews because guess what? They include the photos with their BTS. But you can't do that if on your budget, you don't know how much it's going to cost for you to pay somebody to do your BTS. You don't know if their skill is up to par. That's why structure is important. Structure allows us, bottom line, to be more creative. And when you're more creative, you're at your best. And when you're at your best, you're the most happy. And guess what? When you're at your best and you're the most happy, your clients get the best version of you as an entrepreneur, as a content creator, as a boss, as someone who has to, work the logistics. You have to work out the psychology of getting your clients very, very comfortable. Some people are very stiff. So you want to, one of the 11 hats that you wear, you want to be able to concentrate on what's important. That is the client experience. Also, that client experience is part of your structure. For example, when people come into my studio, I have a set way or structure in which they do things. First of all, I ask them how much time do they have when they're going to come and do an in-person visit to the studio. And then once I find out how much time they actually have, because I sometimes have to get the gab and I can go off on a tangent, I know that I don't have time to go off on a tangent. But I still want to be me. I still want to be myself. I still want to be spontaneous. But I can't do that without structure. But anyway, the first thing that I do is I know that when they're coming up, I make sure I text them 10 or 15 minutes before they get to the studio to find out where they're at. Because I want to always greet them at the door. And then when I get them at the door, I just say, hey, how you doing? And I was like, hey, we about to give you the nickel tour. And the nickel tour is basically me giving them a tour of the studio. I come in, I'm like, go ahead and take a seat. And then I show them like a 4-minute video that I have. And this 4-minute video is basically showing them everything we do, because it's just like family and friends. Family and friends, they know what you do, but they have no idea what you really do. A lot of times for me, they'll say, oh, Kyron, he takes pictures. Come on, man. Come on. Look, I haven't been doing this thing for 25 years and somebody just be like, oh, he just takes pictures. No, I do more than take pictures. I tell your story. I allow you to live in the moment. I solidify your legacy. But anyway, off on a tangent. Now back to what I was saying is, when my client comes in, I already know that if they only have 20 minutes, I have to show this 4-minute video, and then I take them over and show them some actual products. After I show them the actual products, then I tell them the story behind the product. But that now condenses my normal time of when we're talking to, a shorter amount of time to say the same things. And then what I want to do during that time is I want to hear them talk. So I have to make my stuff short and concise. And then that allows them to kind of tell me what they want, how they feel. And this is the most important thing is without that structure, you'll always bust or create chaos in something that should have been smooth, and something that should have been pleasurable, and something that should have been very informative. So that's why structure allows you to thrive and be more creative than when you just like water. It goes anywhere. It has no shape. But when you have structure, it's just like an airplane. The structure of the airplane allows it to take off. It allows it to stay in flight. It allows you to come and land safely. So it depends on what type of plane you want to fly. It depends on where you want to go in life. It depends on where you want to take your clients. It depends on what that experience is. It all depends on the structure that you put in place. If you want to give someone the Air Force One type experience, then you have to make sure that that structure that you have in place in that plan and that process allows them to get that Air Force One type experience. So I said all of that to say that bottom line, structure allows you to be creative. It allows you to mentally be at ease because guess what? I got all my stuff packed. You already know the plan. And with that plan, if anything goes to the left or right, guess what? You can always either get your client on track or make sure that you're on track. It allows you that mental space to do what creatives do. We create amazing moments for our clients. And if you don't have the mental space or the mental agility or that structure in place, guess what? It'll be all over the place. And I'll leave you with this. Structure allows me to do two things: to have that freedom to be creative and give the client the experience that they've always hoped for. And I want to do what I'm supposed to do. I want to tell their story and put them in the best light. So that's it. Bottom line, that's how structure allows you to be creative.